His name is Nick and he'll help you consume. That's why they call him OnlyFoods.
What is going on, guys? So today we are going to be making lemon ricotta Italian iced cookies. This is my grandma's recipe and it is absolutely phenomenal. One of my favorite recipes of all time. I had to go big for the second video. So basically this recipe feeds like, I think the recipe called for like 36 servings. After all of this is said and done, I'm not going to be giving you guys the recipe for 72 different cookies. I'll probably shorten it down to about maybe 24 cookies. You know, maybe about like 6 or 7 servings at the end of the day. My grandma is Italian, so she cooks for a freaking army, I guess. So we're gonna do the recipe in the same format that we did last video. We're gonna do the recipe in 4 steps. We're gonna start with the dough. We're gonna move on to the baking process. We're gonna go on to the icing, and then we'll decorate. It's a pretty simple recipe at the end of the day, as long as you're not making 72 cookies. So yeah, you guys should feel pretty inclusive. You and however many other people are watching this are going to be one of the few people that have this recipe. So very special to me. I'm really glad that I was able to get the recipe from her, convince her that, you know, I was doing this for my YouTube channel. I will see you guys back here after the video is done. We'll talk about it. We'll eat a couple of cookies together and we'll go from there. See you in a little bit. So we're actually going to be using a lot of the same ingredients that we used last recipe. So we're going to start with some milk. We have our all-purpose flour, we have our granulated sugar, we have some powdered sugar, we have a whole lemon, a couple of eggs, 2 sticks of butter, some vanilla extract, ricotta cheese, pink Himalayan salt, or just regular salt, and baking powder. We also have our assortment of sprinkles, depending on which ones you want to use. I prefer the little the dots, I think they are, but you could totally use like the long stick ones or whatever they're called. So you're gonna want to soften your butter in the microwave. I put it in there for like 30 seconds. I set the timer on, but it was only about 10 seconds that it needed at most. So I added my softened butter to a bowl. I then added white sugar to the mix as well. I added 2 cups here. I tried stirring the mixture with a spatula and that did not work. So I ended up switching to a wooden spoon. That worked a little bit better, but this is really difficult to do by hand. So I did end up switching to a hand mixer, which was the easiest for me. You are going to want to get this mixture like light and fluffy. So it takes, even with the hand mixer, it took about 5 minutes to get it to that consistency. You are going to want to set your mixer on high because this will take a while if you have it on low. You're going to want to scrape down the sides of your bowl with a spatula to kind of get everything incorporated and mixed together. As you can see, the mixture is kind of getting super light and fluffy, and that would have been impossible to do with a wooden spoon. I added 2 eggs into my mixture, along with 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I then added my ricotta cheese into the mixture as well. My recipe called for the entire 15-ounce tub of ricotta cheese. I then grated in some lemon zest in there. I used probably about a quarter of a teaspoon. And then I started mixing everything together again. So you're going to want to reduce the speed to medium on your mixer. And I would blend this for about another 3 minutes. The mixture really starts to come together at this point. And then in a separate bowl, because the ingredients were just too much to handle in my little bowl that I had, I mixed in the flour, the baking powder, and the Himalayan salt in there. I then added my wet ingredients to the big bowl, and then I added about 2/3 of the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. And then I mixed that all together on about low speed. The dough is going to be a little shaggy at first, but eventually it all comes together. So this is one of my biggest recommendations to have in the kitchen. If you guys bake a lot, this is like a non-stick mat, and you could basically use it in exchange for like tin foil or parchment paper, and it does not burn the cookies on the bottom, which is so handy. So the recipe calls for a leveled tablespoon of cookie dough on the parchment paper of the baking mat. So make sure you spread these guys about 2 inches apart from each other because they will rise in the oven. So I set my oven at 350 degrees, and once the oven was done preheating, I threw my cookies in the oven on like a middle rack Set my timer for 15 minutes, but you're going to want to be careful with this. I would recommend probably about 12 minutes because my oven is definitely not the strongest. You're going to want your cookies to be like light golden brown on the tops and the bottoms. So we're going to start our icing. I added 1.5 cups of powdered sugar to the mix, and then I added 3 tablespoons of milk. Mix that all together with my spatula. You're going to want it to be a thicker consistency. You don't want it to be too thin because then it'll just run off the cookies. My timer went off, so I went ahead and checked on my cookies, and they were actually perfect right after 15 minutes. So I took them out of the oven. So let them cool on top of the oven, and funnily enough, this recipe calls for a wire rack to cool them on so that like the heat can dissipate. But I actually used colanders, upside down colanders, to let the heat dissipate through them. Use whatever you can. Get creative with it, you know? So look at these beauties. Aren't they just so beautiful? They kind of almost look like Red Lobster biscuits. That's what they reminded me of. I slapped on my icing on top of the cookies. Definitely wait for the cookies to cool down a little bit before you ice them because the heat from the cookies will definitely melt the icing pretty fast. And then I went ahead and put sprinkles on top of the cookies. This is where I say let your creativity run wild because you can literally do whatever you want with the tops of the cookies. Some people put food dye in them, which I did. I did a little marbling technique, as you can see right here. They looked pretty cool actually in the end. I just put in separate bowls, a little bit of food dye with the icing, and I drizzled it on top and let it dry. And that is literally it, guys. It is a very quick recipe, and it's a really good result. So, you guys will love these cookies. I hope you really enjoy them. Some beauty shots afterwards.
Cookie Monster.
Welcome back. Hopefully you will have some cookies in your lap right now. I have some cookies sitting here for me. They look really, really good. So I'm pretty excited to eat them with you guys and try them out. I'm not gonna lie, I snuck a couple in while I was making them. It's hard not to. When you're baking anything, honestly, it's hard not to eat, you know, while you're in the process of making something. So at the end of the day, I think I made 60 cookies. It wasn't quite 72 like the recipe had stated, but it was pretty close to that. And I've never made so much of something in my entire life. And it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of work to make 60 cookies. But if you shorten down the recipe, you only make like 20. It'll be a lot easier for you guys. This recipe is pretty simple. It's basically only like 10 ingredients for baking. You know, with the icing and everything, you got some, you know, add some sprinkles on top. It's pretty fun. So here are the, oh man. Okay. So here are my beautiful cookies. I'm very proud of these. I don't bake very often. So I'm kind of stepping out of my comfort zone when I'm doing this YouTube channel thing. I wanted to challenge myself a little bit, and I kind of wanted to be like the viewer and step into like you guys' shoes and do stuff that I've never done before. I mean, I've baked before in the past, but it's never been, you know, freaking lemon ricotta Italian iced cookies. It's just been like basic chocolate chip cookie recipes, so this is definitely a new territory for me. And, you know, they look good, so I can't complain. I'll try one out. I want to taste one. I'm really excited. Like I said, I kind of snuck one in a little bit ago, and they were really good. But these cookies definitely taste better when they're cold. That was something that, like, I had given my dad one when we had first started, and they were still pretty hot, right, fresh out of the oven. But then he tried one afterwards, and he said they were better cold, and I totally agree with him. So we'll try one out. I'm gonna try one. Those are freaking delicious. So the one thing that I would say is that the lemon zest was my addition, and that definitely it's so good. It really completes the cookies, honestly. But yeah, the way they are, I mean, they're so good. I'm actually gonna bite. They're light, fluffy. They're pretty much the perfect cookie. I'm gonna probably try to add more baking recipes into my YouTube channel I said before, that's definitely something that I lack in the department of. I'm not very good at baking at all. If you do want to make 72 cookies though, you totally can. You will run out of them very quickly. I think I only have like maybe like 25 cookies left at this point. So I'm gonna work on editing this video tonight and hopefully get this video out to you in the same day. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely a fun process doing this. Come at you with another video next couple of days, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Now I see you, yeah, you know I do, to make it through the times we had.